Worms often slip our minds until they invade our space or carpet the ground after a rain shower. But these unassuming creatures come in countless shapes and sizes, playing a vital role in our world's ecosystem. They're the unsung heroes of the soil, helping to keep our planet alive. Contrary to popular belief, there are far more than a few dozen worm species. In fact, the diversity is staggering, with some truly bizarre examples. Let's explore some of the world's weirdest worms. Ribbonworms. Humans aren't the only record breakers. Ribbonworms hold the title for the world's longest animal, easily surpassing the blue whale. The blue whale is the longest mammal and the largest animal by weight, reaching about 30 meters in length. However, a single ribbonworm can be much longer, with a humorous twist. Despite its impressive length, it's only a few centimeters wide. Scientists have even noted that these ocean-dwelling creatures resemble pieces of pasta. You might assume such a slender worm isn't very active or mobile, but you'd be wrong. Ribbonworms are predators that overwhelm their prey by shooting out a venomous proboscis, a spaghetti-like appendage that wraps around and kills their prey. They inject toxins into their victims and then consume them whole. This hidden limb makes the ribbonworm a formidable predator with a voracious appetite. Their size and appetite mean they can significantly impact fisheries, consuming large quantities of clams and oysters. They can also occasionally be found on land, adding to their surprising nature. All this should serve as a warning. Worms are not just annoying creatures, they can be long, venomous, and quite hungry. And we're just getting started. The Bobbit worm. You might think I'm being harsh, but there's a reason. To show how monstrous a worm can be, just look at the Bobbit worm. Found in warmer oceans, this terrifying creature buries itself in sediment, leaving only its mouth exposed. Its huge scissor-like jaws and 5 tripwire-like antennae are enough to give anyone nightmares. When prey triggers one of its antennae, the bobbit worm strikes in milliseconds, often slicing its catch in half. This is a real, terrifying creature. Typically, it's about 1 meter long, but there are accounts of them growing over 3 meters. While it's not large enough to prey on humans, its size and ferocity are still alarming. Some believe the bobbit worm's monstrous nature is the result of countless evolutionary changes. One thing is clear, I never want to encounter its jaws. Bloodworms. Bloodworms are unique for several reasons. They're named not because they suck blood, but due to their blood-red insides and pink exteriors. Interestingly, despite their eerie name and appearance, they're popular fishing bait, proving they're not a significant threat to humans. However, they can be aggressive towards other creatures. Bloodworms have 4 fangs that extend from their mouths to attach to prey, injecting a nasty green toxin to immobilize them before feeding. This makes them formidable predators despite their small size. Bloodworms have surprised us in many ways, including their occasional appearances in places like Oklahoma through the water supply. How they developed fangs remains a mystery. Nature still holds many secrets, and bloodworms are a prime example of its curious and sometimes unsettling wonders. Bristleworms. Let's shift to a species that is visually and biologically fascinating. Bristleworms are intriguing creatures found in various water bodies around the world. With at least 10,000 different species, they've adapted to an incredible range of environments, from coral reefs to the deep ocean's hydrothermal vents. These worms come in various colors and can even glow in the dark. Surprisingly, bristleworms are ancient, supposedly having survived 5 extinction events, predating the dinosaurs. This long history allowed them to diversify into numerous forms, making their path a mystery to scientists. Despite their ancient origins, scientists continue to discover new aspects of bristleworms. Their unique adaptations and survival strategies make them a captivating subject of study, showing that there's still much to learn about these remarkable creatures. King Ragworm. Also known as sandworms, these popular bait worms are fascinating creatures that thrive in the world's waters. Typically found in mud flats, they burrow into the mud to create tunnels. Unlike many other worms, king ragworms are omnivores, consuming seaweed and microorganisms. What makes them particularly interesting isn't their appearance or their popularity in the fishing industry, but their use in scientific research. King ragworms are valuable for measuring metal contamination in fish, as they can accumulate and reflect the levels of metals and microplastics in the environment. This makes them essential for studying and addressing ocean pollution, highlighting their unexpected role in environmental science. Blood-sucking worms. Leeches are a type of worm, specifically parasitic ones closely related to earthworms. Known for their blood-sucking habits, they can be quite annoying, though they're not typically life-threatening unless encountered in large numbers. Leeches are fascinating because of their feeding mechanism. When they bite, they release a chemical that prevents blood from clotting, allowing them to feed continuously. This trait, while unsettling, has practical applications in medicine. The anticoagulant chemical has been extracted and used in various medical treatments. So while leeches may be terrifying, they have a unique place in the natural world and even contribute to medical science. The velvet worm. Remember when I mentioned that most worms don't have appendages? Well, there's always an exception, and that's the velvet worm. This creature challenges the typical worm classification and has intrigued scientists since its discovery in 1826. Velvet worms are believed to have lived for some 500 million years and were initially mistaken for slugs. With their unique body structure and appendages, they resemble millipedes more than traditional worms. Some scientists believe velvet worms may be a missing link between worms and arthropods. Further analysis suggests they are more closely related to arthropods than to worms. So, are velvet worms truly worms, or are they something more? The answer remains a mystery. Squid worm. The squid worm is a remarkable discovery made possible by a remote craft diving about 3,000 meters below sea level. It was named for its 10 tentacle-like appendages on its head, each longer than its entire body, which it uses to collect particles and debris falling through the water. One fascinating aspect of the squid worm is its semi-transparency, allowing scientists to see its internal structures and study it more effectively. First discovered in 2007, this worm measures up to 9 centimeters in length. Its long tentacles, resembling both squids and worms, are used for feeding and sensing the environment. Living at depths over 2,800 meters, the squid worm plays a crucial role in the deep-sea ecosystem. This discovery underscores the diversity of life in extreme environments and the importance of exploring uncharted oceanic realms. While we still have much to learn about the depths of our oceans, each discovery brings us closer to understanding the wonders that lie beneath. The pig butt worm. This uniquely named worm owes its moniker to its peculiar shape, resembling a human butt. Typically about the size of a hazelnut, it stands out from the typical elongated worm structure. The pig butt part of its name is derived from its Latin designation, and humorously, its mouth is situated right between the cheeks. These worms inhabit deep ocean regions with low oxygen levels, yet they thrive in such extreme environments. The pig butt worm remains a mystery in many ways, with scientists still uncovering details about its unique adaptations and life in the deep sea. This quirky worm adds to the endless curiosity and fascination with oceanic life. The Medusa worm. Despite its name, the Medusa worm is actually a type of sea cucumber. This clever creature is quite beneficial in aquariums because it helps keep them clean by feeding on particles in the water, requiring no outside food sources. Medusa worms produce a sticky residue that allows them to cling to surfaces underwater, making them effective at reaching their desired habitats. However, there's a catch. If stressed, the Medusa worm releases a toxin that can kill all the fish in the tank. They also emit this toxin upon death. So, while helpful, Medusa worms require careful monitoring to avoid any potential disasters in your aquarium. Zombie worms. Discovered off the coast of California in 2002, zombie worms are fascinating deep-sea organisms that specialize in consuming the bones of dead whales and other vertebrates. Unlike most worms, they lack a mouth and digestive system. Instead, they secrete acid to bore into bones and rely on bacteria within their bodies to break down fats and proteins. Zombie worms have a distinctive appearance. Females can grow up to a few centimeters long and have feathery plumes for respiration and root-like structures to penetrate bones. Males are much smaller, only a few millimeters long, and live in gelatinous tubes within the females, focusing on reproduction. These worms play a crucial role in the deep-sea ecosystem by recycling nutrients from large carcasses that would otherwise accumulate on the ocean floor. Their discovery highlights the rich, largely unexplored biodiversity of the deep ocean and the complex relationships that sustain these hidden ecosystems. The tiger flatworm. The tiger flatworm stands out due to its unique appearance and its predatory feeding habits. However, what's truly intriguing is its method of reproduction. Like some other animals, including other worms, it can reproduce asexually. Here's where it gets particularly fascinating. If a predator tears the tiger flatworm apart, the resulting halves, if sufficiently large, can each grow into a new worm. This means that an encounter with a predator could inadvertently lead to a proliferation of tiger flatworms. The idea of a predator's attack potentially creating an army of these worms is quite unsettling. The horsehair worm. Unlike the zombie worms, which don't actually act like zombies, the horsehair worm operates with a mind-controlled twist reminiscent of a zombie apocalypse. Here's how it works. The horsehair worm infects an insect, such as a cricket, and grows inside it. When it's ready to complete its life cycle, the worm manipulates its host to jump into a water source and remains submerged. Once in the water, the worm exits the insect in a dramatic xenomorph-like burst. But the story doesn't end there. Before leaving, the worm lays eggs inside the insect, ensuring that the next generation can continue the cycle by infecting other insects. It's a grim reminder of nature's darker, more complex side. Iceworm. As its name suggests, the iceworm thrives in icy environments. Discovered in a glacier in the 1800s, these worms are now known to inhabit icy regions in Canada and Alaska. Iceworms have a unique adaptation that prevents them from freezing despite being surrounded by ice. They have a special layer around their bodies that protects them from the cold. However, they are so adapted to their frigid habitats that exposure to warmer temperatures can cause them to melt. These worms feed on algae found in glaciers and pollen that settles on the ice. Their ability to survive in such extreme conditions highlights their remarkable resilience to their icy world. The giant Palouse earthworm. This earthworm is one of the most famous and enigmatic worm species. Once thought to be extinct, the giant Palouse earthworm was rediscovered in the Palouse region of the northwestern United States, though finding enough specimens to study remains challenging. This impressive worm can grow up to 20 centimeters in length and often has a pale white appearance. Despite its prominence, there is still much to learn about it. Continued efforts to locate and study more of these earthworms are crucial to understanding and preserving this potentially unique species. The peanut worm. Despite its name, the peanut worm isn't associated with peanuts. The name comes from the peanut-like shape of some species within this family. With about 320 species, there's surprisingly little detailed information about them. These worms can be found in a range of habitats including water, sand and rock crevices. As deposit feeders, they use various methods to gather food, including extending tentacles to capture it. Their diverse environment and feeding techniques make them a fascinating example of the weird and wonderful world of worms. The ice cream cone worm. This peculiar worm creates a shell out of sand that resembles an ice cream cone. It takes thousands of grains of sand to build this shell, which, while looking elegant, is quite fragile. The worm uses this cone-shaped shell to conceal its unusual body and mouth, which are surrounded by tentacles used for feeding. So while the cone may seem charming, it's a clever disguise for a worm that might just catch your attention in more ways than one. The parchment tube worm. This worm crafts a unique parchment-like tube to hide in, often found on beaches where the tide comes in. It buries itself in the mud and uses various methods to capture food from the passing water. As the worm grows, it continuously adds to its parchment shell, making it an integral part of its survival. You might even spot the remnants of these shells on the beach, left behind as the worm continues its life. The acorn worm. With over 111 species, acorn worms are fascinating creatures that don't need to hunt for food. Instead, they feed on mud and dirt, extracting nutrients from their environment. Named for their acorn-shaped proboscis, they burrow into sandy or muddy seafloors and can grow up to over a meter long. Acorn worms are related to starfish and play a crucial role in their ecosystem. They also have impressive regenerative abilities, which scientists are studying for potential applications in regenerative medicine. Their diet gives them a distinctive smell, adding to their unique characteristics. Before we dive into number 1 on this list, let's address a bizarre claim. A supposed worm-like creature found in the Philippines. This alleged monster is more akin to a snake than a worm, with features like eyes, fangs and claws that are completely out of place for this type of animal. It's essential to be critical of what you see online. Such sensationalized images often distort reality and can mislead viewers. Worms are fascinating creatures, but they don't look like something out of a horror movie. The Barmer worm. In the pitch-black depths of the ocean's midnight zone, the Barmer worm has some extraordinary survival tactics. It features special sacs on its head that can burst with a bright green light, effectively dazzling nearby predators. This bioluminescent burst serves as a distraction, allowing the worm to escape while the predators are captivated by the glow. Remarkably, the Barmer worm can regenerate these light-emitting sacs, giving it an endless supply of dazzling defense mechanisms. That's all for our dive into the world of worms, creatures that can be surprisingly strange and fascinating. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to check out the other intriguing content on the screen. See you next time.